As of January 2024, more than 11,000 people were known by name to be experiencing homelessness in Multnomah County in Oregon, which includes cities like Gresham, Troutdale, Fairview, and of course Portland. Roughly 1/4 were living in temporary shelters, and nearly half of them were identified as living outside, in vehicles, or in other places not meant for people to live. Homelessness is one of the most pressing and complex issues facing our country, state, and county, and it's something I by no means claim to be an expert in, and maybe I'm not even qualified to be talking about it yet, but I'm trying to learn about it on a deeper level, and I'm going to talk about what I've gathered thus far. Also, I wanted to talk about this from a compassionate, data-driven, and all-encompassing perspective, and if you do happen to be an expert in this or are directly affected by this, please weigh in below in the comments. I will also touch on certain organizations within the city of Portland that are doing incredible work every day to help combat this major crisis from all angles and talk about ways everybody can help. So in June of 2024, the city of Portland and Multnomah County published the final Homeless Response Action Plan. It's a plan that seeks to build a system to address the needs of people pushed into homelessness, address why coordinating behavioral health and mental health intervention is absolutely crucial, touches on how to prevent homelessness after incarceration, foster care, and mental health hospitalization, and just in general, strengthen coordination around our housing crisis. It talks about adding hundreds of shelter and recovery beds to provide safety off the street and ultimately moving towards being a city with much more affordable housing. There are many known factors that contribute to homelessness, but some of the very most primary causes are the lack of affordable housing and unaddressed health needs. Some people experience prolonged homelessness with complex disabilities, including substance use disorder, aka addiction, and require health, income, and social support in addition to housing. But other individuals experience shorter-term homelessness, which may be remedied or avoided completely simply through rental support. Regardless of the population segment, the data is overwhelmingly clear that as rent burdens rise, so does homelessness. Homelessness affects communities in many ways, and currently no single government entity, let alone government department, is solely responsible nor exclusively able to address its causes and impacts. The responsibilities of addressing homelessness are currently scattered across multiple jurisdictions, bureaucracies, and systems. For example, each county in the Portland metro area has a different housing authority serving as an access point to shelter options, housing wait lists, and housing vouchers, and the entities do not coordinate with each other at this point in time. Another consideration is that given the chaotic nature of not having stable housing, most folks just don't reside in one county consistently. So they're forced to travel across the region, county to county, in response to sweeps, trying to find the most advantageous place to stay given factors like weather, safety, shelter availability, or access to different types of care, whether that's health, legal, or housing related. The responsibility is often on the individual to engage with each housing authority on their own and manage the follow-up for each, which can look very different depending on the county, which, as you can imagine, can be extremely overwhelming, which is why it seems as if many people have just given up. At this time, there is no centralized way to support someone across the entire Portland metro area that can address any one individual's different needs. The fact that none of these government entities function symbiotically has not been proactively addressed. It's just been the status quo, which is a huge factor contributing to this ongoing and worsening crisis. Fact is, this current state hasn't worked to properly address the crisis, and it can't if things don't change. So what exactly needs to change? Well, a lot. Before we dive into anything resembling specifics, I think we need to set our expectations straight. This is a major problem that has been going on and getting worse for a very long time. We didn't get here overnight, and we won't be able to fix it overnight either. So there's not even a sliver of a possibility that even if everything is implemented perfectly with full coordination and power today, that significant change will even be noticeable by the average naked eye for a very, very long time, perhaps even decades from now. So I think it's important to say that because I see a lot of negative comments on my channel in the form of complaints about the homeless problem here. Complaints that almost feel like they are the ones who assume all the burden of homelessness, without actually taking into account the challenges, pain, and trauma inflicted upon those that actually are experiencing homelessness directly, nor are they taking into consideration of why or how any one person has become homeless in the first place. To me, it comes across as though those people seem to be under the impression that the homeless problem is not only happening to them, but it is also out of control and the city simultaneously isn't doing anything to change things. This is by no means meant to minimize the flip side of this issue, which is the reality that residents of Portland who are not homeless have in some situations been affected by occasional instances of violence or hostility towards them in the streets, in certain parts of town, or having their cars or property broken into, or even being exposed to drug paraphernalia. There are absolutely zero excuses for this type of experience and behavior, and what I'm saying is not meant to overshadow that reality. It's also not meant to justify anybody's behavior, but rather diving deeper into the issue itself to have a broader understanding of why we're here in the first place as a city and as a society. If I'm being honest, I've been guilty of seeing through that complaint lens myself, but after taking the time to do some extensive research and learn, I've realized that it is quite far from the truth to say that nothing is being done about this issue. If there's a wildfire in the wilderness burning out of control and it's spreading and it's extremely difficult to contain, does that mean that there aren't dozens or even maybe hundreds of firefighters who are doing everything they can to contain that fire and get it under control? No, because wildfires burn like crazy sometimes before they get under control. I'm gonna come back to this and talk about some positive efforts actually being done currently, but I think it's really important to acknowledge this idea that lawmakers at the top, aka the Supreme Court, who just made a ruling which allows cities to deem homeless people as criminals for simply existing, and residents alike who want to just shoo away the homeless people of America, is just an indication that there's a fundamental lack of understanding of why and how people end up on the streets in the first place. Ryan Dowd, an American author and someone who has worked in homeless shelters for nearly his whole life, says it plain and simple. The wrong way to think about the cause of homelessness is some people are too lazy to afford an apartment, and the wrong way to think of a solution is to punish the lazy people so they stop being lazy. For better or worse, the answer is actually much more complicated. The actual cause for homelessness is multifaceted. Firstly, the cost of housing has risen faster than wages, and as a result, the lowest wage earners are incapable of earning enough money to even afford the cheapest apartment. The lowest wage earners cannot earn enough because of a combination of interrelated factors including poor education, cognitive disabilities such as schizophrenia, severe depression, bipolar disorder, PTSD, and other mental health disorders. So naturally, the solution is to create more affordable housing and also to make mental health care much more easily available and accessible to those in need, as well as offering other basic need resources. The point is that the approach being taken by the Supreme Court to allow cities to ban people living on the streets is going to be more damaging in the long run because it doesn't actually fix anything, it just hides the problem or just scatters it somewhere else. The good news is that even before this video has been published, the County of Multnomah, through what's called the Housing Multnomah Now program, through the Joint Offices of Homeless Services, has already established plans in place to rapidly move people living on the streets into housing. What the Housing Multnomah Now program does is partner with landlords of already existing housing in the form of vacant multi-family condo buildings in the downtown Portland area and directly approaches individuals and families living on the street to give them the gift and opportunity to move them rapidly into stable and safe housing. So far, this program is still in the pilot stages, but has been life-changing for over 300 people living on the streets in tents, getting approached and moved directly into stable housing. Of course, helping 300 people is better than helping none, but there are far more that need help like this, and it just goes along with my point I made earlier in this video, again, that the complete changes we need will not occur overnight. One of the key issues with this plan, though, as I've already communicated in this video, is that oftentimes people need a lot more support than just housing. That's really just the foundational need for many, and coordinating the additional health, mental, or legal, or even social care like finding stable income and jobs is an absolutely critical aspect of this solution too. But this is some pretty mind-blowing work that has already been happening that I hope continues to happen and improve as time goes on. In addition to local government agencies doing this work, there are many volunteer-based groups which you can find links to their websites below in the description that do great work in the Portland area that you can get involved with if you're moving to Portland or if you already live in Portland. For example, Portland Night Strike is a nonprofit organization that creates an opportunity for homeless members of the community to come enjoy a hot meal, get a haircut, have their feet washed, and even have their old clothing and sleeping bags replaced with fresh, clean ones. If you are in Portland, you can sign up to volunteer for their events, and even if you don't live in Portland, you can donate to them and even fund one of their weekly events all on their website. All it costs is around $800 to fund an entire event. Central City Concern is an all-encompassing, non-judgmental organization that helps people not only with housing, but also with healthcare, finding jobs, anti-recidivism efforts, and recovery from drug addiction. In 2023, they maintained 2,370 units of affordable housing in 30 properties across Portland, placed almost 5,000 residents in housing, served 661 people re-entering the community after incarceration, and supported over 2,700 people in managing substance use disorders through recovery housing. Outside In is an organization dedicated to helping homeless youth and other marginalized people move towards improved health and self-sufficiency. Milk Crate Kitchen is an organization that provides hot meals that require no cooking to people in need, no questions asked. Stone Soup PDX empowers people experiencing barriers to employment to achieve self-reliance through training for careers in the food service industry. There are honestly too many organizations like this to name in this video that are doing not just amazing, but also necessary work to fight this problem we face. And the good news is that you can too. Any of these groups that I mentioned and more, you can donate to and or volunteer for. So maybe instead of leaving a hasty comment on this video about all the ways how Portland is out of control and it's the worst city ever in your eyes, maybe you could do something of value and actually help instead. Contribute something, or maybe just direct your negativity elsewhere. I know I sure will be getting involved with some organizations to volunteer for after learning about all of them. Just to reiterate, what we really need, in addition to all the great work of these organizations, is more affordable housing first and foremost, and then immediately and simultaneously we need every system, including but not limited to housing, legal, healthcare, behavioral healthcare, community resources, foster care, to align, which truthfully is no easy task. In order for this problem to truly end, we must have a better opportunity to offer wraparound support to the people in need, and that has to start from the top down. But that, for better or worse, is the path we face if we want to move towards a city and a society in general where people can have their basic human needs met, of not needing to worry about having a place they can call home. If you're still with me, I'd like to say thank you for being open-minded to this very polarizing and complex issue. I still have a lot to learn myself, but thanks for watching and hearing what I have to say about this. Hope to see you in another video sometime.